Admiral Zorax's tentacles curled in disbelief as the sensor readings flashed across his command center. The energy signature from the insignificant blue planet violated 7 fundamental laws of physics simultaneously. Impossible, he whispered, mandibles clicking in agitation. His crystalline eyes rotated in their sockets, recalibrating to ensure no malfunction corrupted his vision. The readings remained unchanged. Sensor Chief Rulka, explain this aberration, he demanded, his exoskeletal plates darkening with stress pigmentation. The sensor chief's appendages trembled as she manipulated the holographic interface. The primitives appear to be manipulating quantum entanglement without a stabilization matrix. It's as if they don't understand it can't be done. And yet they're doing it, Zorax murmured, watching the recording of human scientists in their primitive white coverings, casually operating machinery that should tear reality apart at the seams. Notify the Concord Council immediately. Priority Alpha. Within hours, representatives from all 13 species of the Galactic Concord convened an emergency session, their virtual avatars shimmering around the circular chamber. These, humans, hissed Science Minister Vexlar, his crystalline form refracting light anxiously, have bypassed 3 millennia of theoretical development. Their physics models are childishly simplistic, yet they've achieved what our greatest minds consider impossible. Grand Executor Zelthram's massive form dominated the chamber. They must have received outside help. Perhaps the precursors have returned. Negative, Zorax reported. Long-term surveillance shows no external contact. They developed this technology independently, from their own primitive understanding. Silence fell across the chamber, the silence of collective existential dread. This violates the unified theory of everything. Vexlar finally spoke. If they continue, they could destabilize local space-time. The Grand Executor's decision was swift. First contact protocols are authorized. Determine how these primitives are violating universal constants. If necessary, he left the implication hanging in the recycled air. Meanwhile on Earth, Dr. Elena Rice popped the champagne cork with a satisfying thunk. The fizzing liquid caught the fluorescent laboratory lights as her team cheered. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, her voice slightly hoarse from 20 straight hours of work, "we have just teleported a quantum-locked object across the room without decoherence. That's a world first." Dr. Kabir Sharma, her lead theoretical physicist, grinned as he examined the perfect quantum signature on his tablet. The entanglement remained stable throughout the transfer. "Elena, do you realize what this means for the paradox drive?" "It means it'll work," Elena said, filling plastic cups with champagne. Phase 1 complete. Next stop, practical FTL travel. Young grad student Haler Wu shook his head in amazement. "I still can't believe it was the math in the margins that made it work. 300 years of quantum theory, and the solution was to treat the uncertainty principle as a suggestion rather than a law." Elena had just raised her cup in a toast when the ceiling tore open in a silent flash of purple light. The champagne bottle crashed to the floor as a massive vessel, shape-shifting between geometric impossibilities, descended through the new hole in the building. The humans froze as silvery figures emerged from the craft, their bodies shifting between solid and liquid states. One creature stepped forward, 7 limbs extending from a torso that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Which advanced civilization provided you with forbidden technology?" it demanded, voice translating through some unknown mechanism into perfect English. "Identify your benefactors immediately." Elena blinked twice, then found her voice. "Excuse me? The quantum manipulation technology. It violates the primordial constants. Who gave it to you?" The aliens' appendages gestured toward their equipment impatiently. Dr. Sharma stepped forward cautiously. "Nobody gave us anything. We developed this ourselves." The aliens exchanged what must have been their species' equivalent of shocked glances. The leader's skin rippled with color patterns. "Impossible. Your species only achieved basic spaceflight 60 years ago. You cannot have developed Class X reality manipulation independently." Elena felt a surge of indignation cutting through her fear. Well, we did. Want to see how it works? The alien recoiled physically, multiple limbs raising in what might have been a warding gesture. You would demonstrate such technology without proper containment fields. Are you suicidal? Elena looked at her team, confusion apparent on all their faces. She turned back to the aliens. It's perfectly stable. We've run over 200 successful tests. The alien commander's external membranes paled to an almost translucent state. What the humans would later learn was the physical manifestation of horror. 200 violations of causal reality, and yet your local space-time remains intact. It gestured to its companions. Secure their research. All of it. As alien appendages reached for their equipment, Elena stepped between them and her life's work. I don't think so. Who the hell are you people anyway? Science Minister Vexlar's crystalline skin paled as Dr. Rice scribbled equations on a whiteboard, casually crossing out constants his civilization had accepted for 30,000 years. But without the primordial constant, your calculations would collapse into chaos. He protested, seven-fingered hands trembling slightly. The diplomatic incident from their first meeting had been smoothed over, somewhat. After 3 days of frantic intergovernmental negotiations, Elena shrugged, erasing another immutable law with a squeaky marker. That's the weird thing. Watch this. She gestured to her colleague Dr. Sharma, who activated the holographic simulation. The particles in the model not only stabilized but formed complex patterns that flowed with elegant precision. Impossible, whispered Selfoff, the Concord's leading quantum theorist. His third eye dilated in what humans had learned was extreme distress. You keep using that word, Elena said, capping her marker. Maybe you should reconsider what it means. The gathering of human and alien scientists occupied a hastily repurposed gymnasium at MIT. United Nations security personnel maintained a watchful perimeter around the facility, while Concord guards hovered near their delegation with weapons the humans pretended not to notice. Across the room, junior engineer Maya Rodriguez was demonstrating what she called a quick fix to an alien communications device. Your quantum resonator is creating feedback loops because you're forcing it to comply with the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, she explained, rewiring delicate components with casual disregard for safety protocols. If you just let the particles behave naturally instead of constraining them. The device suddenly projected a crystal-clear hologram that stretched across the entire gymnasium, far beyond its design parameters. The alien engineer backed away in obvious fear. I am merely a technician, he chittered. Such modifications are forbidden. Outside the facility, crowds had gathered. News of the alien arrival had triggered global pandemonium. Some humans carried welcome signs. Others held religious placards declaring the end times. Among them moved robed figures from the Concord's religious council, their flowing garments concealing their non-humanoid forms as they distributed pamphlets warning about reality defiers. Inside the secure conference room, UN Secretary-General Okonkwo faced off with Grand Executor Zelthram. Your species represents an unprecedented danger, Zelthram's translator device conveyed. You manipulate fundamental forces without understanding the consequences. Okonkwo leaned forward. We understand enough to make it work. Your people have had centuries to share knowledge with less advanced civilizations. Instead, you've kept your Concord exclusive. For good reason. Zelthram's appendages twitched. Technological advancement must follow proper sequence. You've skipped crucial developmental stages. That's not your decision to make, Okonkwo replied coldly. Humanity won't surrender its research. As night fell over Cambridge, Vexlar slipped away from his security detail. His crystalline form absorbed ambient light, allowing him to move unseen through shadows. He reached Elena's private laboratory and used alien technology to bypass Earth's primitive security. Inside, he activated recording devices, illegal by Concord diplomatic standards, and began examining Dr. Rice's original equations. Madness, he whispered, capturing images of mathematical formulations that shouldn't produce functional outcomes. His instruments registered the human technology as physically paradoxical. When he touched the prototype paradox drive component, something extraordinary happened. The metal briefly phased through his crystalline fingers. Vexlar staggered back. The implications were staggering. Human technology wasn't just ignoring universal constants. It was actively reshaping local reality to accommodate human expectations. He hadn't noticed Junior Lieutenant Sarah Chen of UN Security watching from the doorway, her hand resting on her sidearm. "Finding everything you need, Minister?" she asked coldly. Vexlar's outer membrane flickered with embarrassment patterns. "Your species processes quantum reality differently than any known sentient life. How is this possible?" Chen's expression remained impassive. "Maybe you've been looking at the universe wrong all this time. This is a joke, right?" Chief Engineer Xalthoff's 7 eyes blinked asynchronously as he circled the Paradox's engine room. "These components are connected backward." His exoskeleton clicked nervously as he pointed at the quantum resonance chamber. "The entanglement matrix is feeding directly into the dimensional anchor." "That's impossible," Dr. Rice supplied with a small smile. "We've been hearing that a lot lately." The human technicians exchanged amused glances. After 2 weeks of dealing with the Concord delegation, they'd grown accustomed to alien incredulity. The flow of causality itself would reverse. Xalthoff insisted, his translator struggling to convey the appropriate level of horror. "You've created a temporal paradox loop inside a propulsion system. Hence the name," Elena said, stepping toward the control panel. "Would you like to see it work?" "Stop." Xalthoff positioned himself between Elena and the controls, multiple limbs extended. "Proper procedures must be followed. Containment fields, quantum stabilizers, reality buffers." Elena sighed. "We've run 20 test ignitions already. It's perfectly stable. You've activated this aberration 20 times." The alien's exoskeleton visibly cracked along stress lines, a droplet of iridescent fluid leaking from one joint. Elena flipped the ignition switch. The drive core hummed to life, bathing the room in impossible light that seemed to bend around corners and flow like liquid. Complex patterns formed in the air, mathematical equations made visible in shifting luminescence. Xalthoff made a high-pitched keening sound and vomited a viscous stress hormone onto the pristine floor. His assistant, a junior engineer named Vrilixis, frantically recorded measurements with instruments that repeatedly reset themselves in the presence of physics they weren't designed to quantify. "Reality doesn't work this way," Xalthoff screamed, his translator glitching between languages. Captain Marcus Chen entered the engine room, frowning at the puddle of alien fluid. "Is there a problem here?" "Just the usual existential crisis," Elena replied calmly. "The drive is performing within expected parameters." Chen nodded. "Good. We have confirmation from the UN Security Council. The demonstration flight is approved for tomorrow. We've selected 4 alien observers to accompany us, representatives from the most open-minded species of the Concord." 4. Elena raised an eyebrow. "I thought we agreed on 2. Chen's expression darkened. "Political compromise. The conservator faction insisted on including their representatives." Xalthoff had recovered enough to speak again. "You cannot take this aberration into space. The dimensional instabilities could spread." "Looking forward to having you aboard," Chen said dryly, ignoring the protest. Later that night, Elena worked alone in the ship's data center. She scrolled through final preparations when a notification flashed across her screen. Someone had accessed the paradox's core equations, transmitting them to an unknown location. She tapped into the security feed, heart pounding. Every screen throughout the ship now displayed her equations, annotated with alien script. The translation software struggled, but phrases like "forbidden knowledge" and "class omega violation" appeared repeatedly. Elena reached for her comm unit, then froze as Vrilixis entered the data center. accompanied by two robed figures she didn't recognize. The quantum intuition must be harvested, one whispered in halting English. Before launch. Vrilixes spotted her and chittered in alarm. The robed figures moved forward with unnatural speed, extending devices that glowed with the same impossible light as the paradox drive. Security breach in the data center. Elena managed to transmit before diving behind a server bank as energy crackled over her head. She crawled through maintenance access, reaching a small compartment housing the ship's prototype defense systems, technology the Concord delegation didn't know about. As footsteps approached, she activated the system. Intuitive defense protocol engaged. The computer announced, quantum state, indeterminate. The ship's internal lights flickered, and for a brief moment, Elena felt reality itself bend around her. All ships avoid the Crimson Veil, warned Talim, the Concord's foremost astrophysicist, as the spatial anomaly loomed ahead, a churning maelstrom where space-time itself seemed to dissolve into swirling patterns of impossible color. The fabric of reality is too thin there. Turn back immediately. Captain Chen stared at the view screen, mesmerized by the patterns that shouldn't exist in normal space. Despite Talim's warnings, the Paradox had successfully launched 12 hours earlier, with its compromised security protocols mysteriously repaired after Elena's confrontation with the infiltrators. 4 Concord observers had joined the crew, 2 scientists, and 2 cultural attaches, who everyone knew were security operatives. What exactly happens to ships that enter? Chen asked, leaning forward in his command chair. Talim's translucent appendages shimmered with distress. They ceased to exist in comprehensible reality. 17 Concord vessels have been lost attempting to study the phenomenon over 6,000 years. Chen's eyes gleamed with the distinctly human expression that the aliens had learned to fear during their short exposure to humanity. Curiosity mixed with reckless innovation. What if we invert the polarity of the paradox drive and run it backwards? He suggested casually. Create a temporal shield around the ship. Madness. Talim's body pulsed with alarm patterns. You would create a causality loop within a causality-destroying environment. Navigator Lila Patel looked up from her console. It might work, Captain. If the veil operates by unraveling temporal sequencing, running the drive in reverse could actually stabilize our local space-time. Before Chen could respond, the 2 conservator security operatives moved with unexpected speed, physically restraining him as alarms blared throughout the ship. This vessel is under emergency quarantine, announced the larger alien, skin shifting to reveal hidden weaponry. Quantum violation protocols are now in effect. What are you doing? Demanded Elena, entering the bridge. Release the captain. Your species represents an unacceptable risk to cosmic stability. The alien replied coldly. This ship will return to Earth for immediate impoundment. During the confusion, Navigator Patel caught Elena's eye and nodded slightly toward her console. Understanding instantly, Elena lunged across the bridge, slamming her hand down on the navigation override, while Paddle simultaneously activated the drive modifications they'd discussed hypothetically the night before. No, screamed Talim as the ship lurched forward, directly into the Crimson Veil. You've doomed us all. Reality itself seemed to scream as the paradox plunged into the anomaly. Normal physics ceased to function. Solid objects became transparent, light moved like syrup, and time flowed in multiple directions simultaneously. The security operatives dissolved into equations, their physical forms unable to maintain coherence. Talim collapsed, iridescent blood leaking from his sensory organs as his consciousness tried to process the unprocessable. Make it stop, he whimpered as his perception fragmented across multiple timelines. But the humans were laughing. It's beautiful, breathed Elena, watching mathematical patterns emerge from the chaos, perfectly matching the theoretical models she'd created. It's exactly as we predicted. Captain Chen, freed from restraint, moved to the view screen where impossible geometries blossomed. Paddle, are you recording this? Every bike, Captain. The navigator replied, her fingers dancing across controls that constantly reconfigured themselves to adapt to the shifting reality. The drive is functioning beyond expected parameters. It's not just protecting us. It's translating the Veil's properties into comprehensible data. As the ship emerged from the far side of the anomaly, the crew cheered. Tillene remained curled in a fetal position, his mind shattered by witnessing physics he'd been taught was absolute being casually violated by human technology. On the view screen, sensors revealed something extraordinary. Artificial structures deeper within the Veil, geometric patterns too regular to be natural. "My God," whispered Chen. "Someone's been here before us." The communication system suddenly flooded with panic-stricken messages from Concord vessels that had been monitoring their journey. "The Concord Council has declared humans reality terrorists," Alina read aloud, her expression darkening. "All vessels ordered to contain Earth's sphere of influence immediately." Chen's eyes remained fixed on the artificial structures in the Veil. "I don't think containing us is going to be an option anymore." The Grand Chamber of the Concord erupted into violence for the first time in 8 centuries as Vril Ambassador Keith Thax hurled a ceremonial blade across the chamber. It embedded itself in the podium inches from Quarian Representative Lucia's central sensory cluster. "You would welcome the end of all cosmic order." Kithax shrieked while security drones restrained his thrashing appendages. Holographic footage of the paradox traversing the Crimson Veil played on loop above the chamber, showing the impossible moment when the human vessel emerged intact from what had claimed 17 Concord ships over millennia. "The humans offer unprecedented opportunity," Lucia countered, her luminous tendrils pulsing with calm reason. "Their intuitive approach to quantum mechanics could revolutionize our understanding of heresy." The Mentat delegation rose in unison, their collective consciousness vibrating the chamber's air molecules. "The certainty of physical law is the foundation of civilization itself." The Galactic Concord, stable for 12,000 years, fractured before the assembled representatives' eyes. 3 distinct factions crystallized in minutes, the purifiers demanding human quarantine or extinction, the opportunists seeking to exploit human abilities, and the small minority of enlightened proposing genuine cooperation. Grand Executor Zelthram, watching from his private chamber, felt the weight of 13 civilizations' futures pressing upon him. "The humans leave us no choice," he whispered to Science Minister Vexlar. "Activate the Conservator Protocol." Vexlar's crystalline form clouded with distress patterns. The last time it was authorized, an entire species was erased from existence. Zelthram finished. "I am aware of the cost. The decision is made." Meanwhile on Earth, blissfully unaware of the interstellar crisis they'd created, Dr. Rice directed a flotilla of experimental vessels through regions marked TRMINAL dead space on alien charts. These were the proving flights for a dozen new ships based on the Paradox's principles. Paradox 3. Maintain your quantum signature, she instructed from Mission Control. "You're starting to phase shift." "Compensating," responded Commander Alvarez. "This dead zone is actually teeming with interesting phenomena. I'm reading energy patterns that suggest some kind of natural wormhole network." Elena made notes on her tablet. "Exactly as we suspected. The Concord has been avoiding the most interesting regions of space for millennia." In the adjacent lab, scientists examined artifacts recovered from near the edge of the Crimson Veil, fragments of technology that matched no known Concord species yet operated on principles similar to the Paradox Drive. "It's like finding our grandfather's workshop," mused Dr. Sharma, examining a device that casually violated conservation of energy. "Whoever built these understood reality the way we do, not the way the Concord does." Across the compound, Captain Chen's personal quarters remained dark. He had disobeyed direct orders to remain planetside, taking a small scout ship to investigate quantum distortions his sensors had detected near Neptune. Official channels dismissed his concerns as calibration errors in human technology, but Chen trusted his instruments and his intuition. As his scout ship decelerated near Neptune's darkened orbit, active camouflage engaged, He detected a massive cloaked structure. His enhanced sensors, modified after exposure to the Crimson Veil, pierced the cloaking field to reveal a facility of alien design, bristling with unfamiliar technology. Chen to Earth Command. He transmitted on a secure quantum-entangled channel. I've located a Concord black site in our solar system. He adjusted his sensors, focusing on energy signatures within the facility. His blood ran cold as he detected unmistakable patterns. Human brainwave activity. Dozens of distinct signatures. They're holding humans captive, he reported, maneuvering closer. Children, based on the neural patterns. Recommend immediate. A beam of coherent energy sliced through his ship's stealth field, shearing off the port stabilizer. Alarms blared as the vessel tumbled toward Neptune's gravity well. Mayday. Chen managed as secondary explosions rocked the scout ship. They're using human-derived weapons. They're experimenting on. The transmission cut to static as his ship disappeared from Earth's monitoring systems. The sky burned as conservator dreadnoughts materialized in Earth's atmosphere, their weapon systems already firing. Massive energy beams sliced through cloud cover, vaporizing portions of major cities in synchronized strikes. Global defense networks collapsed within minutes. Conventional weapons bounced harmlessly off the alien vessel's phase-shifted hulls. Paradox-derived prototype defense systems managed token resistance before being systematically neutralized by weapons specifically designed to counter human quantum technology. At the Emergency Command Center beneath Geneva, Dr. Rice watched in horror as death tolls climbed into the millions. Holographic displays showed devastation spreading across 6 continents simultaneously. We never even had a chance to explain, she whispered as footage showed Rio de Janeiro vaporizing under concentrated fire. UN Secretary General Okonkwo stood ashen-faced before the assembled Emergency Council. The Concord ambassador's final message was explicit. They consider us an existential threat to reality itself. Because we proved their physics wrong, demanded the Chinese premier. Because we proved it was never absolute, Alina corrected, her voice hollow. For species that built their civilizations on cosmic certainty, we represent chaos incarnate. The bunker's security doors burst open. Military personnel raised weapons, then lowered them as a bloodied figure staggered in, supported by 2 special forces operatives. Captain Chen. Alina gasped, rushing forward. Chen's uniform hung in tatters. Burns covered 30% of his body, and his left arm ended in a hastily bandaged stump. Yet his eyes blazed with determined fury. They've been preparing for months, he rasped, allowing medics to ease him into a chair. The facility near Neptune was just one of dozens. He painfully extracted a data crystal from his remaining hand. They're using our own children against us. The display shifted to show images that made even hardened military commanders flinch. Human children, dozens of them, wired into alien machinery, their faces contorted in silent agony as their brains were systematically mapped. The conservators believe human cognitive patterns allow us to manipulate quantum reality. Chen explained through gritted teeth. They've been harvesting that ability, weaponizing it. Alina studied the captured data, her scientific mind still functioning despite her horror. They're using the children as biological quantum processors, forcing them to manifest reality distortions. Above them, another conservator dreadnought materialized directly over Geneva. Building-sized weapon arrays began charging. Conventional defenses are useless, the American chairman of the Joint Chiefs stated flatly. The Paradox fleet is our only hope, but they're scattered across the solar system on test flights. Dr. Rice had gone silent, staring at the neural patterns extracted from the captive children. Something in the data sparked a terrible idea. There's another option, she said quietly, but it crosses every ethical line I've ever held. She outlined her proposal rapidly, linking Earth's remaining quantum engineers into a collective consciousness to directly manipulate local reality, mimicking on a larger scale what the conservators were forcing from the captive children. It would require volunteers to neural link directly to Paradox technology. she explained. The human mind isn't designed to process reality at the quantum level. The feedback alone would kill most participants. And the survivors, asked Okonkwo, would experience shared consciousness while directly perceiving and potentially altering quantum states, Alina replied. It's completely untested and almost certainly fatal in the long term. Not trying will kill all of us, Chen said, struggling to his feet. I volunteer. Within hours, 500 quantum physicists, engineers, and military personnel with specialized neural training had joined the volunteer pool. As the Paradox and surviving ships formed a desperate defensive perimeter, Alina supervised the hasty construction of neural interface stations. The conservators believe we're reality terrorists, she told the assembled volunteers, many of whom were former colleagues and friends. Let's show them what that really means. Above them, the largest conservator vessel opened what appeared to be a dimensional rift, preparing to deploy what Chen's intelligence identified as a reality warping weapon created from tortured human minds. Neural link activating in 3, 2, 1. Alina closed her eyes as the interface needles penetrated her cerebral cortex. Around the world, hundreds of others did the same. Many died instantly from neural overload, but those who survived experienced something no human was ever meant to perceive: direct conscious access to the quantum fabric of reality itself. Admiral Zorax watched in existential dread as human vessels, now evolving in real time, sprouting organic-looking appendages and phasing through solid matter, hunted down the remaining conservator ships. The flagship's observation deck offered a panoramic view of Earth's orbital space, where reality itself seemed to unravel and reknit according to alien patterns. They transcended, whispered his science officer, instrument panels flickering as reality fluctuations washed over the ship. This wasn't supposed to be possible for at least another evolutionary epoch. Screens throughout the command deck displayed the impossible. The Paradox and its sister ships had abandoned conventional propulsion entirely. They moved like living thoughts through space, leaving trails of mathematical equations visible to the naked eye. Human vessels passed through solid matter as if it were mist, their hulls constantly reconfiguring in response to conservator weapons. The dimensional weapon had no effect, reported the tactical officer, mandibles clicking in distress. The humans didn't resist it. They absorbed it. Zorax's exoskeleton contracted in horror as he watched the flagship of the conservator fleet, a dreadnought 5 kilometers long, encounter a modified human mining vessel barely 1/100th its size. Instead of firing conventional weapons, the human ship simply touched the dreadnought. The massive alien vessel didn't explode. It transformed, its matter reorganizing into complex fractal patterns before dissolving into a shower of harmless light. No debris, no destruction, just conversion of matter into a different state of existence. All vessels, withdraw beyond the heliopause, Zorax ordered, his voice barely audible even to himself. The containment mission has failed. Aboard the Paradox, Captain Chen could no longer meaningfully distinguish between himself and the ship. His consciousness had expanded beyond his damaged physical body, merging with the neural network that now included hundreds of human minds and the quantum-sensitive technology they had created. He perceived reality as malleable patterns, a flowing tapestry of potential states that could be reshaped through concentrated thought. The pain of his injuries had become abstract, a data point in a vast sea of information. They're retreating, came Alina's thoughts, her consciousness recognizable by its distinctive pattern of logical structures. Like Chen, she existed as much in the shared neural space as in her physical body. Let them go, Chen responded, feeling the collective agreement of other minds in the network. We need to find the children. The Paradox shifted without using engines, its physical form responding directly to the collective will of its neural pilots. It phased through the hull of a conservator vessel that had been attempting to flee with its human captives. Inside, Chen/Paradox encountered nightmare scenes. Children suspended in translucent chambers, their developing brains connected to alien machinery that forced them to manifest quantum effects against their will. Many were already dead, their minds burned out by processes they couldn't understand. With a thought that was simultaneously rage and compassion, the collective consciousness severed the alien control systems. The surviving children dropped into waiting fields of cushioning energy, their neural patterns instinctively drawn into the protective embrace of the human gestalt. As the last child was recovered, Chen directed their attention to the conservator research data. The truth emerged in fragments of quantum encryption. The aliens had discovered that developing human minds, those still forming neural pathways, could be forced to manipulate reality in ways adult humans couldn't. The conservators had intended to create a reality bomb, capable of rewriting the fundamental structure of spacetime within the Sol system, erasing humanity from existence. Near Mars' orbit, Dr. Reyes had physically transformed, her body now a luminous energy state that existed in multiple quantum positions simultaneously. She interfaced directly with the rescued children, her consciousness gentle as it helped stabilize their traumatized minds within the gestalt. Together, they formed a message that bypassed conventional communication, transmitting directly into the consciousness of every sentient being in the solar system. We understand what you fear. You believe we would reshape reality without constraint, without wisdom. You're right that we could. But that isn't who we are. We don't seek revenge, but understanding. We offer knowledge, not destruction. The message continued, revealing the conservators' planned reality bomb and their exploitation of innocent children. It concluded with an offer that stunned the retreating Concorde fleet. Come back as equals, not conquerors, and we will show you how to see beyond the limitations you've accepted for millennia. The transformed Captain Chen stood before the reformed Concorde assembly, his partially ethereal body rippling with quantum potential. The vast chamber, redesigned to accommodate the new reality of human-Concorde relations, contained representatives from all 13 member species, plus humanity, now formally recognized as the 14th. 5 years had passed since the failed invasion. Earth had rebuilt, though scars remained in both landscape and psyche. The survivors of the neural link had permanently changed, existing in a state between conventional matter and pure energy, their consciousness capable of perceiving multiple realities simultaneously. We call it cognitive evolution, Chen explained to the assembled representatives, his voice resonating directly in their minds rather than through air vibrations. The barriers between thought and reality were always thinner than we realized. The Grand Executor, now a position shared between Zelthram and UN Secretary-General Okonkwo, nodded in tandem. The question remains, Zelthram's voice echoed through the chamber, why humans alone develop this perception of quantum reality. Chen gestured, and the chamber transformed around them, the walls becoming transparent to reveal the stars beyond. Perhaps we were never alone in our understanding. The Sol system had become an interdimensional nexus where altered humans taught willing alien students to perceive quantum reality differently. Not all species showed the same aptitude. Some found it nearly impossible to break free from ingrained perceptions of physical law, but progress occurred daily. Across the chamber, Admiral Zorax, once humanity's greatest critic, now led the Concorde's Joint Research Initiative. The Crimson Veil expedition departs tomorrow, he announced. Dr. Reyes will lead the mixed species team into the structures we detected 5 years ago. Deep within the Crimson Veil, Dr. Elena Reyes, now existing simultaneously across multiple probability states, guided the exploration team through ruins that defied conventional archaeology. The structures appeared to shift between architectural styles, responding to the observer's expectations. These walls contain information encoded in quantum states, explained Elena to the mixed team of human and alien scientists. They don't just record history. They exist across multiple histories simultaneously. Ancient murals decorated chambers that seemed larger inside than their external dimensions suggested. The images depicted beings remarkably similar to humans, teaching other species to manipulate reality before mysteriously disappearing. When Reyes placed her transformed hand against a central control panel, the entire structure hummed to life. Holographic displays, or perhaps actual windows into other times, activated around them. "It's a library," whispered Quarian scientist Lu Sha in awe. "A library of realities." As the team watched, the displays revealed the truth that would forever change galactic civilization. The universal constants were never natural laws, but artificial constraints imposed by a precursor race that feared uncontrolled reality manipulation. They had created a quantum framework, a kind of cosmic operating system, that defined how reality functioned across the galaxy. Humans, their distant descendants, had evolved outside these constraints during their isolation on Earth, their minds unfettered by the limitations that bound other species. They didn't trust developing species with the full nature of reality. Elena realized, absorbing data directly from the quantum field. They created training wheels for the cosmos. As this revelation spread through the Concord, some species embraced the new freedom, while others retreated into technological stagnation. The galaxy divided between shapers who accepted flexible reality and preservers who clung to the old constraints. 10 years after first contact, a child born of human and Quarian parents played in the gardens of the new Concord Academy on Mars. She was the first of a new generation, a hybrid consciousness that existed naturally in the state that humans had achieved only through technological interface. With casual gestures, she manipulated quantum fields, creating a miniature galaxy in her palm. Stars formed and evolved before the eyes of Elder Admiral Zorax, who had requested to observe her development. "She doesn't even think about it," he marveled to Chen, who now served as Earth's ambassador. "For her, there is no distinction between thought and reality." "That's the gift we never expected," Chen replied, watching the child experiment with different physical laws in her created cosmos. Not just understanding the universe, but reimagining it.